Hey, what's up, guys? This is a response to an older video I did called One More Thing, which was attached to, it was part of that old debate I had with Crazy 316 about certain verses in the New Testament which portrayed pretty much what a supposed Christian traditional marriage is supposed to be like. And, they've been, arguing against me about this ever since, even though the verses are clear and the statements stand. There's no arguing with this. Now here's yet another video basically trying to say I got it wrong. Well, first of all, thank you very much for responding to the video and spending your time doing so. You didn't have to. And with that said, let's get on with this, because we got a couple of problems, several problems in fact, with your counter argument. I'm only going to go into a few of them. There are plenty. First, I noticed that right off the bat you decided to come at me with how this is not what Jesus said about marriage, and bring all this stuff up about, oh, Jesus submitted and washed his feet, which, by the way, I don't think you know much about that foot washing custom as much as you think you do. But you're talking about how he washed his feet and he serves, and this is not what Jesus said about marriage, and all this stuff basically coming at me about what Jesus wanted and what Jesus said. Now, I find this particular approach odd because I didn't talk at all about what Jesus said. I was talking about what Paul said and what letter that was attributed to Peter, what that said. In fact, all the verses I brought up aren't from the Gospels, they're from, the letters that Paul sent out. You can go back and check the original videos. In fact, I implore you to do so. You'll find that I don't mention Jesus whatsoever. I didn't talk about what he said. I talked about what Paul said and supposedly what Peter said. I say supposedly because the jury's out on whether 1 Peter was actually written by Peter, but that's a subject for another time. Now, I guess the reason why you decided to come at me, with the whole Jesus angle, throwing aside the possible fact that you're trying to use misdirection, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's simply because, well, you're Christian. And of course, you guys believe that all your beliefs and your values directly stem from what Christ taught. And that seems to be a credible theory, and I think that's, a decent way to go about this, until one remembers that you guys don't follow everything that Jesus taught. And in fact, in some ways, you go the direct opposite of what Jesus taught. For instance, remember that line that he stated about not one jot or one tittle shall pass for the law, not one thing shall change in the law? But yet, somebody else later on said that the law is nothing, and that if you truly wanted to be saved, all you need to do is believe in Jesus' death and resurrection and you'll be saved. And that was by Paul. Now, I ask, which do you follow? I'll let that one hang. You guys accuse me, well, I shouldn't say you guys, but then again, yeah, a lot of you guys have been doing this in comments and in other videos, and your video is no exception, accusing me of cherry picking the verses and twisting it to my own ends, which I always find comical, considering that this is not my position. It's not like I believe that women are supposed to be inferior in marriages. I'm just saying this is what your freaking Bible says in so many ways. But I digress. I don't think you guys know what this phrase means, what cherry picking actually means. Basically, it means that you're picking a quote completely out of context to twist your views. But my verses that I picked weren't taken out of context. They work with the subject that was being spoken of, and they support the doctrine that followed afterwards. Look, let me give you an example of what cherry picking actually is. If I were actually to say that Jesus taught that eating figs is bad and we should not eat figs, and then I quote where he cursed the fig tree, that would be cherry picking, because there is nothing in anything that Jesus stated that supports the view that he hated figs and that he taught that all good Christians should stay away from figs. There's nothing like that in the Bible, nothing like that in further Christian doctrine, and we don't see that in the church today. So that's cherry picking. If I were to state that Jesus taught that all good Christians should make their own moonshine, and then I point to the wedding in Cana where he turned water into wine, that would be cherry picking, because once again, there is nothing in Jesus' doctrine that states that he wanted us to make our own moonshine, and there is nothing in further Christian thought by other, Christians and the church itself, and nothing in your doctrine that suggests that you guys are supposed to make your own moonshine. It's taking the quote out of context. Cherry picking. But when I bring up all the different verses where they define exactly what a woman's role is supposed to be in society and in marriage, and when your church has followed this rule up to this point, to the point where in your own marriage vows you have that the husband must cherish the wife or the wife must obey the husband, and when you and other people yourselves slip up and talk to me about there's certain roles that the wife is supposed to follow, that supports my argument. I wasn't cherry picking. It fits. It works. Besides, I present this question to you. You guys constantly keep trying to tell me that, well, you people are equal in your marriages. Okay. Then shouldn't that mean that the roles are interchangeable? Doesn't that mean that, well, let's say that the wife happens to have a bit more leadership skills than the husband does. So is it okay then for the wife to assume the responsibilities the husband normally does, and for the husband to assume the responsibilities the wife normally does, if it'll make the marriage work better? Or do you guys normally try to train the man up so that he can take his traditional leadership qualities in the marriage, because it's kind of shameful for a husband to take orders from his wife? I know how your guys' marriages go. I've been around them for quite some time, so you might want to think before you try to rebut that one. Then we get to another really odd part when you try to redefine the word submission. I'm beginning to wonder if English is your guys' second language or something, because submit and submission are clear-cut words. We know what they mean, okay? The fact that you guys are bending over backwards trying to change the definition of this word is beginning to get ridiculous. And your latest attempt on doing that, well, your particular attempt I should say, because I don't know if you've been trying to do it before. I don't know. I really don't think that you're the etymology expert that you're trying to make yourself look. Let's look a little bit further into the word, okay? Let's first take submission. From the early 15th century. Act of referring to a third party for judgment or decision. From the Old French submission, and I could be mispronouncing that, so forgive me. From the Latin submissionem, or submissio, lowering, sinking, or yielding. From submissus, the postparticle of submittere. Submittere we'll get back to in a moment. It's to lower, reduce, or yield. This is beginning to sound a bit familiar. Sense of humble obedience. Again, this is sounding familiar. It's first recorded in the mid-15th century. Modern French submission has been replaced by the doublet soumission. Then we go into the word submit. Late 14th century. To place oneself under the control of another. From Latin submittere, to yield, lower, let down, put under, reduce. From, and here come the two words that you had to try to separate, sub, under, plus mittere, let go or send. Sense of, to refer to another for consideration. First recorded in 1560. Now, you might be jumping up and down going, see, that proves my point. See, because you got the sub, under, plus mittere. The mittere, like I said, mission for Christ. Submission. The one undergoing out on a mission. Not so fast, dude. First of all, mittere, to let go or send, that's the sense of referring to another for consideration. In other words, an underling that you're sending to another to happen to see if they're worthy or not. It's not a quest for Christ, one. And two, you seem to forget that when you add the word sub to mittere, it changes the definition to yield, lower, let down, put under, reduce. Definitions that support my argument. Seriously, if you're gonna try to, delve into such matters, you need to study it a little bit more before you try to put yourself up as an expert of such. Sorry about that, my phone rang. Anyway, I'm gonna have to do this as the last point because I'm running out of time, even though there's plenty more to go with, but you charged me with this challenge. Tell me where Jesus said that he wanted us to be his slaves. Well, once again, it wasn't about what Jesus was saying. I wasn't bringing Jesus into it with my argument. But what the hell? I'll humor you. Did Jesus ever say that he wanted us to be his slaves? Oh, there's nothing like that in the Bible. Yeah, you're right. But did he equate us with being slaves and that we had to be slaves to the Lord? Absolutely. Matthew 24:45-51, New American Standard Bible. Who then is the faithful and sensible slave whom his master put in charge of his household to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master finds so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you that he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that evil slave says in his heart, my master is not coming for a long time, and begins to beat his fellow slaves and eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour which he does not know, and will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I'm sure you remember that lesson. It was pretty much about how you don't know when the Lord is coming and what will happen if he finds you, sinning. And there he equates us with slaves. Lastly, this thing about me not being, the things that I say is not going to get me any followers. I'm actually not looking for followers, man. I don't want followers. I don't want people hanging on my every word. I put these things out not to get followers. I put them out to get people to think.